Hey, this is Kim with Mom's Creative Moments. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are visiting the Cary Writers Museum and doing a layout. Actually, this is several layouts for all of the photos from there. This is my attempt at recreating what I have seen another advisor come up with, and that is using the 6x12 Peekaboo Pockets to create a super cute layout and using a beautiful 12x12 scenery page as what you see initially, and then when you open each of the pages you find all of the additional pictures. So it was something I saw on our advisor Facebook group, and I thought, what a brilliant idea. I think I can figure out how to do that. So I'm going to show you that today, how I figured out how to do it. Then I'm actually in a class for our longest day. I'm going to be participating in another virtual event for advisors that weekend, as well as providing a layout for the longest day fundraising challenge for the Alzheimer's Association. And one of the classes I get to take in that is how to make the same page. So I'm going to do that and see if I did it right. But you'll have to check out the video and see what you think. Also, I wanted to let you know that in Ireland, the Storytellers that I will talk about in this video are called the Seanchai. I think I'm saying that right. If I'm not saying it, I apologize to anyone who knows Gaelic super well, and I hope that you will give me some hints. But I believe that's the way it is supposed to be said. Seanchai. Yeah, something close to that. Anyway, I love that language. I wish I had more of a lean towards being able to say the words correctly. More practice. I guess I just need more practice. Let's check out my workspace and we'll get started. All right, so this is my workspace for today. And you'll recognize this is the right-hand side of the last layout that we did. And my cute mama standing right there. And this is the entrance to the Writers Museum. And so as we enter the Writers Museum, we took so many pictures. And let me just explain a little bit before I get too far ahead of myself. The Writers Museum there in County Kerry in Listowel, I think I'm saying that right, is the design of the museum is really neat in that they have individual rooms set up and dedicated to each of these different authors, if you will, or participants. Storytellers, that's probably the best word I can use, storyteller. There is an Irish word for it, but I will not say it right, so I'm having a hard time deciding whether I want to try. But anyway, and so that's really cool, and that's what you will see as you see the different photos that I've got for you. But because we had so many photos, I wanted to try the new technique that you may have seen out there, where they use Peekaboo Pockets to create a waterfall, but not just the small Peekaboo Pockets that I have seen in the past used for a waterfall when you have just a lot of pictures. But these are the 6x12, so half a page size Peekaboo Pockets. And I've never seen them used this way before. I think it was Becky Belote who created this the first time, and if I'm wrong and not giving credit to the right person, please someone put it in the comments so that I can correct myself in the description of this video, because I honestly don't remember for sure who it was that first introduced this. But I've not had a class in how to do this. I just tried to figure out how to put it together on my own. So it's possible that the actual instructions of how to do it are different than how I put mine together. And so I apologize if I'm, distorting someone else's idea out there, but this was the way that I came up with to do what I saw. So that's my disclaimer. Everybody's heard it. So with that, let me show you what I did, and then I will show you how I made it. So this is the first one that I created, and I used a piece of scrapbook paper that was from scrapbook.com, and was actually for the national park that we went through what feels like many moons ago. And I used some scraps that I had from creating all those little rainbows and the rainbows for the cover title pages of these albums to create this rainbow, and then just stuck a couple of extra photos that I thought were cool on to this. This actually is seen in the Writers Museum. I thought it was really cool. It says it's the rest place of I want to say St. Patrick, but I'm not sure that that's what that word is. It's really hard to read against that background. They should have been a scrapbooker, because that's hard to read. Anyways. So I decided to put that out here so that we could still see it, and because it really didn't work with the measurements that you have to use in making these. But let me show you, this is what this is, okay? So you end up with many possible places where you can put photographs by doing this. And this is just using 3. There are some that incorporate up to 6 or more of these Peekaboo Pockets on one page. What I love about it is the fact that it's so flat. Look at how flat that is. Things just lay really nicely in your album, so you don't end up with a big bump. The reason you might see a little bit of a bump here is because of all of the stuff we're going to be doing today that's piled underneath it. But actually this lays extremely flat. So I love the procedure. I love the outcome that we get from this. Backing up just a little bit, the Storytellers in Ireland, I believe, and if I'm saying this word correctly, they're called the Seanchai. And I may be, like I said, I may be saying that wrong, but the oral tradition of storytelling is alive and well in Ireland, especially in County Kerry. And that's where they got the idea for putting this wonderful museum together to honor all of the I'm not going to say it right, all the storytellers for many years, and in all the different ways that they tell their stories. So you're gonna meet several different storytellers as we go through the layouts today. And they have this cute little rabbit who is done with lasers on the wall, and he moves around and he follows you through the museum. And so here he is in a little bit more detailed form. And so just really cool. Here's my cousin kind of modeling the fact that that is projected on the wall right there on the stairs. So just kind of fun. And this is the statue that kind of welcomes you to the museum. So as we were waiting for our turn to go upstairs, we enjoyed kind of interacting with him. Super fun. He is a model after Eamon Kelly, and who was really well known for his storytelling abilities. Super cool. All right, so let's talk about how we do these pages. Okay, so I'm going to flip this over and move this first page out of the way, just so I don't have that in addition to everything else that is on my desk today. I prepped some of this ahead of time just to make it a little bit easier on us. And I decided, because you guys know that I like to do 2-page layouts, I thought, well, I solved my dilemma with that rainbow with the last one, and I was going to do a 6 Peekaboo Pocket one as a sample for you, but then I decided that I wouldn't have anything for this side of the page or this side of the page if I did that. So I thought, well, it might actually work out better for my photos if I made it a 2-page spread and just did 3, just like I did on the other side of this, and did 3 on each side. So that solves a little bit of a dilemma for some of the smaller photographs and where I wanted to place them. But then the dilemma was, well, my initial intention was to use this template that I had created a long time ago, and as my cover sheet, instead of using one sheet of one piece of paper that is a huge picture, I thought, well, couldn't I do the same thing with a template that I created? And my head said, well, sure you can, as long as you've adhered everything down well enough, you know. And honestly, I made this so long ago, I don't remember how well I adhered all the little pieces. So we're going to find out today as we cut that. But in order to make this work, I needed 2 of them, I decided. So that meant I needed to create this template again. I don't know if you're familiar with how to use a template, but I just thought we would review that really quickly. And then I'm going to do all the fiddly cutting and come back when it's all cut out, because it's just a lot. But basically what I did was I took my Shamrock, and I want it to be cut using this side of the paper, but I want it to be so that the stem is curving down towards the center, so that it looks like they're growing out this way. And so I figured out which direction my template needed to go in order to do that. And then I don't think you can see because some of the pencil marks are not super dark, but I have traced all of my elements for the Shamrock onto this piece of paper. I have traced all of the plaid, and I've traced these Celtic knot patterned lighter green pieces that are on the 4 corners. I have not done the blue yet. That's on a different piece of paper, and so I will get to that, but that's really pretty easy to cut around, so that shouldn't take too long. So I have traced all of that on here, and I am excited to go ahead and get that going. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that out, and the next time that you see me, I will snap my fingers and everything will be cut. Wouldn't it be so nice if we could do that? Ready? I'm not even very good at snapping. Okay, so here's how far I've gotten on that second template, and you can see I've turned it so that my shamrocks will be kind of meeting in the middle. I do need to do one more thing though, and that is I have a little remnant right here. This came from this spot right here. I'm going to use this to cut 2 small squares, and when I say small, I mean they are small. But in order to make these match, I need to have a small square, 2 small squares that will work to fill this void right here. So bear with me here a second. We're gonna create these small squares. Now these small squares are slightly more than a 1/2 inch. They are 1/2 inch plus a 1/16 of an inch. So not very much, not very big at all. And first I need to make this straight so that I can maybe what we'll do is we'll just make the other side. Okay, so I'm measuring here on the left, and I'm going to make that level, and I'm going to make that 1/2 inch plus a 1/16 and try to keep that as straight as possible, which is tricky. I may have to actually glue it down. We'll see how it goes. These tiny little pieces I don't do super well on this trimmer because they like to move around on me. Alright, so we're cutting squares that are just, and this one's going to be maybe not quite as square as it needs to be, but we only need 1/2 of the square, so it'll be okay. Okay. And then we're going to take these little squares, and I'm actually going to put a little bit of repositionable adhesive on the back of them so that they will stay put on my trimmer. Some people don't like to do this because it can make your trimmer just a little bit gummy, but you can rub off the adhesive. So when I'm trying to cut tiny pieces like this, this is my go-to, so that I can cut those little tiny triangles without them moving around. See, like that. All right, so we're going to, if you've never used a template before, let me show you. The CM templates are really, really cool, and most of them are 12 by 12 size, so you can do your whole 12 by 12 album page using one of these cool templates. And then when you've got all the big pieces in there, or when you're ready to lay the pieces back in, I just lay the template back on my base sheet, and then I come back in with the piece that I want to lay down. Actually, I have a little adhesive on the back of this, so we'll just use it like this. Or I could use my pickup stick, but I've got this out, so we're just going to use this. Okay, and then I stick that down in the void. I'm going to come back over here and get one of these other ones. Make sure it's got adhesive. Still have a little adhesive on the back of my multi-purpose tool, so that makes that really handy. I can just put that right in the spot, and then we've got one more. And then this one will go right in here. All right. So then after you place all of your pieces, you just very carefully lift this up. And when I lift it up a little bit at a time and just make sure that everything stays where I put it. And then you're done with your template, and you can just set that to the side. Okay, so now we've got our two top sheets. Let me talk to you a little bit about the construction of these pages. All right, so I'm going to, let's see, let's just do one at a time. So I'm going to set this one off to the side, and we're just going to deal with this one for a moment. So we're going to set our top sheet over here, and let's just talk about the Peekaboo Pockets. So when you are creating this, you're going to, if you're using a pocket page where that opens at the top and you slip in your papers, then you're going to use a base sheet. If you and the reason why I am recommending that is because you're going to have some photos that you want to go underneath the pages that you flip. Okay, I can use a base sheet when I do it this way as well, or I can just mount my photos right onto the page. It's so depending on which way you choose, which type of pages you have for your album is going to determine a lot of whether you can just put your paper underneath the page protector or whether you need to include a base sheet in there. If you're using a pocket page and you have a page on the opposite side, then it's possible you could just use that as your base sheet to add your photos. I'm going to go ahead and add some adhesive to the back of these. These are photos that are going to go on the last page that we're going to flip. And they need to be as close to the edge of your page as possible, depending on how wide your photo is. You have 6 inches to create the last portion of the page with, which may seem like it's a lot or may seem like it's not enough. I don't know, but it's really not a lot of room. So if you have vertical, or I'm sorry, if you have horizontal photos, you pretty much need to just put one and maybe not even mat it, depending on how wide your photo is. These are 5 1/4 inches, so I have a little bit more room to worry with, but not a lot. Okay, so I'm sort of feel like I'm building the page backwards, but that's really okay. I made myself a template, and if you have the ability to make yourself a template, I highly recommend it. If you're an advisor, you may have seen these on the advisor page, advisor Facebook page. These just give you some simple guidelines so that you can find where to place the Peekaboo Pocket down easier. All right, so I made myself a template. I marked the center, and I color-coded mine just to make it easier for my brain. So the center is green on both sides of my paper, and this is just a 12 by 12 piece of cardstock that I used. Okay, so the center is green on both sides, and then on the left of this side, well, let's see, let's just start with the most basic page like this that you could do would be one adhered to the center and one adhered to the edge. Okay, so your center is marked on both sides. Then you can, so that would be 2 Peekaboo Pockets. Then you can do 3 Peekaboo Pockets by adhering one in the center, one on the edge, and one in the middle between the two. So that this line is marked at 3 inches. 3 inches from the left edge of the page. All right. Then the next, if you were to do 4, we're going to flip it over, and you would do 4 by putting one in the middle, one on the edge, and dividing that space into 3 spaces. So every 2 inches you're going to have one. So 2 inches here, 2 inches here, 2 inches here. And you get 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 pockets on the page. All right, we turn it over, around, not over, and we get 5 pockets. And 5 pockets is where it starts to get a little bit more complicated. So you've got one at the 0 mark, one on the left, one in the center between those 2 marks. So the 3-inch mark, just like your 3 inches over here, and then one halfway in between. So every inch and a half. So you've got an inch and a half here, an inch and a half here, an inch and a half, another inch and a half. All right. You can see why having a mark is going to help already, right? There's even more reason to make one of these, and I'll show you that in a little bit. Flip it over, and this is what you would do if you wanted to use 6 of them on a page. Every inch and 3/16 you will place another Peekaboo pocket. So one in the middle, one on the edge, and then every inch and 3/16 to fit 4 of them in between those two will help you do 6. Okay, so the reason that this is helpful is because then you can slide this, and I'm going to turn mine around so it's at the 3. That's going to help me because I'm doing a 3-page one. You can slide this into your pocket or under your page protector so that you can see where the Peekaboo pocket needs to be adhered to be lined up on your page. All right, now I've already got my photos underneath the other one, and you can wait and do that later if you would rather adhere your Peekaboo pockets first and then go back and do the inserts. You're welcome to do that. I didn't want to take the time to do the inserts while I was on the video with you, so some of them are halfway done so that I can just do the front portions of them. All right, so we will put these on in just a second, but we're going to complete the inside first. Okay, so we've got 3 of these. They're going to go across somewhat like that. So let's take a look at this cover sheet. The first one we're going to cut is this one on the side. It's really the easiest one. We know that it's going to be 6 inches, and because I want to make for darn sure that it's 6 inches, I'm going to put my arm out just to make sure that I visually can see where that 6-inch mark is. I've got my cheater mark up here, but just to make sure I don't goof something up, I'm going to measure out there to that line. All right, and we're going to cut right down the middle of that template or the piece of decorative paper that you've chosen to use. Okay, so there's my very first one. Let me get this little piece of my square that's left over. Get him off there. Okay, so this one is good to go, and I'm going to take my first Peekaboo pocket. Now I pre-cut the base sheets for the Peekaboo pockets, and you will need base sheets for your Peekaboo pockets. At least I feel like you do. Again, I don't know how the original creator of this did hers, but this is how I am doing mine. And I'm going to take this and I'm going to adhere the template that I created, the template design, to going to adhere this to the base sheet. Okay, so I don't know if it's fortuitous or not, but I have one corner of this template that I crinkled accidentally, and it actually has helped me a lot because it helps me make sure I've got the right end where it needs to go. Isn't that funny? All right, so we're going to just smooth that down and make sure that it is good to go. Okay, now I already have photos put on the back, and just to add a little bit of emphasis, I went ahead and matted one of them. I haven't added any embellishments to this, and embellishments would look really nice on these pages that are in between, but I have not gotten that far just yet. Eventually though, we will put some embellishments there. Probably not in this video. Alright, so this Peekaboo Pocket is ready to go, and I am going to go ahead and place it on the very edge right along the jeeping here. Okay, so we're going to peel off the cellophane. I don't know if you can see that cellophane reflection on the video. Cellophane, man, it's like the bane of my existence. I don't know about you guys, but it always sticks to me. Okay, people might say that's my magnetic personality. Ha 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 ha. Okay, you're going to line this up, and it's not actually going to be the full length of your page protector, which is something that I had not really considered or realized prior to doing that other page. I thought it would be exactly the same length as my page protector, but it is not. It is actually short by just about 1/8 of an inch. So I'm going to center it right on the edge of the jeeping and attached to my page protector. Okay, I'm just going to run my finger down over the top to secure that, and here we go. We can run it down again. Okay, so there is our first page, and then we're going to go ahead and assemble the second one. Now, because we're only doing 3, it's really not as complicated as it could be if we were doing more than 3. Maybe I will attempt more than 3 when we get to the Cliffs of Moher. We've got a lot of pictures of that too. So we'll see how brave I get. But let's, when you're doing 3 Peekaboo Pockets, the amount that your top sheet is going to show for each of the following ones is 3 inches. So we need to cut this in half at 3 inches in order to be able to put this on the Peekaboo Pocket. So we're going to go ahead and measure this at 3. I've got it matching my grid lines over here on the left, and we're going to go straight down through there, and then we've got 2 pieces, one for the last page and one for our middle page. And this is a picture that's floating around because it's going to go in an in-between area, so we'll get to that in just a minute. I'm just going to set that over there. All right, so first of all, let's go ahead and build this middle piece. Okay, so we're going to add some adhesive to our shamrock piece. Wow, I just keep putting tons of adhesive on here. I don't need to. That's kind of crazy. Let me make sure. Yep, that's the next piece. Okay, see how that's lifting? Clearly I did not get enough adhesive on it, but I will. This is the one that I built not realizing I was going to be cutting it apart. And I just had a feeling that I was going to be dealing with some pieces that were not completely adhered. Okay, so we can come back in here with some quick adhesive. Let's see if anywhere else is popping up as I kind of bend that a little bit. No, that's pretty good. Only one little spot. Okay, the pictures that go on this page can't be any wider than 3 inches unless you want to cut them and put part on this and part underneath, and then that's another level which I'm not going to take you to today. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and add adhesive on here. And actually, I'm just had a thought. I think I'm going to save that one let's go with these two. Mr. McMahon and my cute cousin. I don't know if he was famous for this quote or not, but the little chalkboard says, "All great schoolmasters must have a touch of roguery. It keeps their pupils interested because at any moment magic can happen," which is something that I could see a storyteller saying. Okay, now do you see how that fits exactly right on there? And I'm going to add this photo at the top. All right, and then this is going to go into my Peekaboo pocket with the fold on the left, okay, on the top and on the left. So we're going to place this in here. Slide that in. All right, just like that. Now, here's where the magic starts. Okay, we're going to open this, and we're going to take the cellophane off of this middle Peekaboo pocket. Okay, fold this over. And then we're going to line this up with that center line. And I'm going to turn this way because centering it is just easier visually for me if I'm kind of hovering above it rather than below it or to the side. Okay, so I'm just going to line that up. I beg your pardon. I'm going to line this up with my page. Now it's more important that you're lining up the actual page with, or centering the page so that the edges of the page match the edges of the page underneath it. Because then when you close this, your edges will be more inclined to be where they're supposed to be, right? They're going to match better. It was a little bit off down here, but close enough. I'm going to leave that, okay? So now we can go back in here and, well, when I remove my template from the bottom, we will worry about that photo right there. So I'm just going to leave that up there. All right, so now we're going to do this last one. I'll scooch that over. So let's pull out this last one. It's super easy to do the back side because you've got your 6 inches, and most of us are pretty used to adding things to a 6x12 Peekaboo pocket, so we kind of know its limitations. But doing the front is a little bit different because of the limitation of the picture that we're trying to match up. Okay, so this is going to go on the right side of the cardstock again. My husband always hassles me about being so precise and taking so long to adhere something, but in this instance, if we don't do it just right, it's going to pop up and cause us difficulty. Okay, I'm going to add just a tiny bit of adhesive to this stem that is popping up. There we go. Okay, and then we've got these two from John B. Keene and my cousin and I, who were sitting at the table in his little room. his room was super fun. They had some interactive things. Ooh, it looks like my photos are going to hang over just a tad, so let's trim those because I don't want them to look sloppy. All right, so I'm going to flip this over and trim off that little edge. All right. Okay, so now we're going to add this. I'll show you when we go back through. I'll tell you a little bit more about all the different spaces and what we saw in all the different spaces. Okay, so there's this one. So now we're going to take the cellophane off of this one. And we're going to do one more. Okay, we're going to open both of those, fold over the edge of this, and actually I'm going to try a different method. I'm going to place it where I think it needs to be, and then just lay that over the top to make sure. So one thing I have learned now doing two of these is that they do tend to go a little bit beyond the actual page. So it goes kind of into the jeeping or over the jeeping just a little bit, which isn't that big of a deal, but might be a bigger deal for some people who are trying to keep that from happening. I really don't think it's a problem, so I just leave it. So we take our template out, and then we can see where the gaps are, where we can add more photos. Okay, so this one says Brian McMahon's room. This is Brian McMahon. Brian McMahon was a storyteller. You can see how he's standing in front of people. So we're going to just add this in to that space between the photos. Hope it's not crooked. Not too bad. Okay, so there's that photo. If we had a base page, it would be easier. We could build the base page and then, you know, adhere that in there. And then we've got this one, which is going to go in here. Now, these butterflies were digitally enhanced on top of these white books that were built in his room. And the butterflies flew around the table. It was really cool. And so I don't know. Oh, actually, was it in his room? Now I'm questioning where this was. Nope, it was not in his room. It was in the room next door. So where does this need to go to line up? Huh. Oh, it was here. It was in this room. So this needed to go in here. Okay. Well, got to get it right. So let me move this guy. We'll move the bunny up here a little ways. And we'll move this, or add these guys. And I'm going to kind of put them in here at an angle on purpose because we have a little bit of the book down here, so we'll just kind of do that one. Nope, we won't, because it'll show up on the next page over. So let's trim this, because it needs to be, it can only be 3 inches. It is 3 inches exactly, like I planned it that way. Okay, I'm sorry. Here, let's get this put in here. I'm going to put it just a little below the other one, right on the edge. Okay, so there's our butterflies for Mr. Brian McMahon, and then we flip it over and we see Mr. Keene, and I didn't have any extra pictures to put in here, so I'll probably add a couple of little embellishments or something. And then we flip that over to George Fitzmaurice, who was actually born in the 18th century, or not, in the 19th century, sorry, 1879. And then we are going to move on to, Maurice Walsh is the fourth one, or yeah, fourth one in this, on this side. So let's flip these back and we will do the other side real quick. And just so that you get a sense, you can see that this is not going to take up a lot of room in our album or create a lot of bumps, because look how nice and flat that lays, and that's using 6, 3 on each side. Okay, so really cool. I'm going to set that up there. Let's do this next page. So we're going to go ahead and, once again, we're going to cut the first portion at 6 inches. And I suppose you could do it backwards even if you wanted. If you wanted to turn these the other way so they opened this way. In fact, that would be a really cool thing to do. Maybe we should try that. I'll have to move these pictures, but I can do that. Okay, let's try that. So we're going to cut this in half at 6 inches. Procedure's still going to be the same, just a little bit backwards. Okay, so we're going to cut that in half at 6 inches, and then we're going to cut this one in half at 6 inches as well. But I'm going to just wait just a second, just to make sure, because I just made that decision on the fly, and you know, sometimes that doesn't work super well. Okay, so if we do it backwards, then this would be turned this way. Wow. Okay. I'm going to need a minute to think about this, so we'll edit out my thinking time.
That's mighty decent of you, eh?
Yeah.
All right, so that brilliant idea that just flashed into my head, we're not going to do. I'm going to save that, though, in the back of my noggin for another time, because that would be really cool to make it so that it opens like this. But it's not going to tell my story the way I need to tell it, so I'm not going to worry about that this time around. We are just going to go ahead and do another page just like before. So I'm glad I didn't cut this, because it's not gonna serve me well this time around. Okay, sorry. So we're gonna go ahead and just put this left hand side of this template page on the front of this first piece of cardstock. So it took 3 additional pieces of cardstock in case you're wondering. 3 additional pieces of cardstock to cut and make 6 Peekaboo Pockets. And if you want a piece of cardstock for your base, then that's 2 more in addition, just to give you an idea. Okay, so there's number 1. All right, then we're going to do, this one is number 2 right here. So we're going to cut this in half at 3 inches. All right. Well, I'm sort of feeling like a little bit of a letdown from that super creative excitement I had just a second ago. That's so funny. I thought I had had a huge epiphany, and I kind of did, but it's just not going to work for this page, so a little bit disappointing. But something to look forward to. We'll try to do it on another set of pages down the road. So we're just going to add this one to the right hand side again. And then I have 2 photos to add in here. This is my cute mama again. So you have to understand, one of her most favorite movies is The Quiet Man. The Quiet Man was a movie that was made, and I don't have the year off the top of my head, but I know it's on some of these papers. So, long time ago. It was made a long time ago. We'll see. Let's see if it says on any of this. Maurice Walsh was the author, and he's on the other page that we just did. And it doesn't give me a year here. So, sorry about that. All right, and I'm gonna leave that there. I can either cut it off, or we can try to fold our pocket over it. Let's try to fold the pocket over it, because I really don't want to cut more of that picture. So this photo down here of Maureen O'Hara and John Wayne, who were the main stars of that movie, is actually sheet music for the theme song for the movie that they had on display here at the library. So kind of cool. Okay, so I'm just going to fold that over the edge of that. Oh, I took my adhesive off. I guess that means we need to grab a Peekaboo pocket. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to sort of set it right here, and we will get back to it. I'm not going to stick anything to it just yet. So you see my fun little traveling pictures. This was us inside of the bus that we were on for this little adventure. It's a little adventure that's taken me almost 2 years to scrapbook for you. For me, but for you. So we can all have the adventure together. I probably would have plowed through it a little faster if I wasn't sharing almost every page with you guys. But that's okay. I like to share, so it's okay. All right, so Brendan Kennelly, I think I'm saying that correctly. I'm going to leave a little border on this one. Was a poet. He was also a novelist and a professor, as it says right here, a professor of modern literature at Trinity College, where we visited on one of our first days in Ireland, where the Long Room Library is located, and the Book of Kells. He was a professor there. It's pretty cool. So I'm happy that they included him in this library. It says he was born in a place called Ballylongford in 1936. And I love that there's something about the fact that they have his little statue kind of looking over a river of words that's just really cool to me. I don't know why that's so special, but that's just really neat. Okay, so I'm going to take my stencil and I'm going to take a fresh Peekaboo Pocket, a page protector. Whew. Page protector, and I'm going to go ahead and put this on. Now, I don't have anything on the back side of this page just yet. This is a brand new page. So when I create my next layout to go on here, it will likely be on a base sheet so that I can then slide that in to adhere it. Because I need the Peekaboo Pocket on the page before I adhere the Peekaboo Pockets. I need the page protector on the page before I adhere the Peekaboo Pockets. Am I saying that right?
That'll do.
I'm sure I said it wrong somewhere along the line. Now, this is another alternative way. This is why I wanted to show you this. This is another way that you can adhere these to your page. And this is the way I did it the first time in that first layout that I showed you. Get that cellophane off my fingers. Okay, so we're going to fold that edge over, turn this around so that it's perpendicular to you, and then I'm going to place this, center it, and center it with so that the edges of the cardstock inside match the edges of the template underneath. Okay, so we're going to adhere that one down. Then we're going to go to the next one, which I already took the cellophane off of, you'll recall. And this time, what we can do is we can match up the design and then lay it down. And it doesn't really matter what the template says, although it's going to be really close to the template, because you can see, whoops, I was a little bit off, so maybe it's not the best. I think it works better though for me. Let's try it again. All right, so we're going to line this up. You can line up the pattern, you can line up the picture, whatever it is that you've got. Line it up and then lay that down. All right, pretty close. It just depends on how it's folded. Maggie is off to defend the castle. I'm sure we got a package or something. Okay, and then this last one, I just took the cellophane off of that adhesive, and we're going to do the same thing with this one. Lay it down so that it matches our design. And then we'll lay that down right on top of the page protector. Okay, so now we've got those. And I don't have, again, extra pictures to go in the middle, but I do have those pictures at the end. So I removed the template, and there's the pictures of my family, because we climbed back in the the bus, and we drove for quite a long while after this. We were in the van for a bit. All right, so that's basically done. Like I said, I'm going to add a few embellishments here or there, probably not to these front pages, but here in between, under the page protectors, and possibly, where it would be appropriate for the visual triangle, I will add just a little something, some shamrocks or something appropriate in there to that. And let's bring back our other page that we put together so you can see both of them together. So the glare is kind of bad for my lights, but super cute. I'm really excited. I think this will be really fun to be able to look at all of these and see how they all work together and tell the story of that museum, and of course the page that's on the back as well. Thanks so much for joining me today. I hope this has been a fun for you to watch me learn and to teach. And I actually am taking a class from people who have learned from the creator how to do this, and that class is in like another week or so. So if I had just been a little patient, I could have learned from them how to do it exactly. We'll see if they do it any differently than I did, and then I'll report back. How's that? Thanks for joining me. I hope you have many more creative moments today. Enjoy your day.